Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the pre-show. I'm John Iderola. Get ready for a big news Wednesday, because we got a lot to talk about, and we have some exciting stuff going on. So this is the pre-show, and then in a little bit, you're going to have the watch list. When we go live, do you know who we have co-hosting on Big News Wednesday? Rashad Ritchie himself, the indisputable co-host of today's show. So that's going to be very exciting, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. We're going to be responding to President Volodymyr Zelensky's address to Congress. We've got LA fire chiefs being horrible, getting away with so much, and a whole lot more besides. There's a lot to talk about. This student getting strip searched because they thought she had marijuana. Some devastating news. Oh geez, I hadn't seen this. Now I'm hearing about this earthquake. Let's see about this right now. 7.3 earthquake hits. News coming out in just the last 45 minutes or so. Tsunami alert has been issued. Oh Jesus. Okay. Well, thank you for letting me know about that. We will be keeping an eye on that. Jesus. Lorland P, just upgrade the membership to tier 2. Thank you. You get access to our top 10 list there. Much appreciated. Okay, everybody. Janet's asking about the replays. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly why the replay thing changed. It wasn't communicated to me. Apologies though if it's inconvenient. All clips still go up, all freely available and all that. In any event, we're going to get to our headline story, which is Marjorie Greene trying to find a position that lets her criticize Biden, pretending to be on the right, and kind of pushing for some pretty horrendous policies. How's it going? So we're going to get to that in just a few. I want to give people time to get here. If you haven't already, please hit the like button so that people know that we're live. We all understand how terrible the notification system and everything is. Before we get to that story, though, we're going to talk about just a couple of things, including this. A Ukrainian diplomat went on one of the Daily Beast podcasts and talked about some of the apparent, incipient defections currently ongoing in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is Alexander Sherba, who said, let's see, the start of the invasion seems like a humongous miscalculation. The goals he's trying to reach here are unreachable. The people in this country hate him, and during this war, he will realize the people of this country will hate him even more. Let's get into the defections. Claiming that young soldiers who have entered the country are, quote, extremely demotivated, he added, I think pretty much everybody outside of his very close circle around Putin knows that this campaign is going down the drain. We've received reports that soldiers from Crimea are refusing to be deployed to Odessa to fight for Odessa. They see the warships approach the coast and suddenly stop and turned away. Good morning, Dabby Dragon. We in Ukraine were clueless that was happening. Then it turns out when they realized why they were sent, refused to. So if even Russian soldiers are refusing to get involved, why would China want to get involved with this campaign? And that's referring to a story we were talking about yesterday about Russia imploring China to assist in terms of weapons, that sort of thing. They're apparently looking for foreign fighters with experience in Syria. With China, they want the weapons, the equipment, all of that. The Ukrainian diplomat goes on to say the Ukrainian soldiers are ready to fight until the last drop of blood here, and Russian soldiers increasingly are clueless about what they're doing here. So, yeah, and look, it is one thing to be clueless during a brief, relatively easy invasion. Maybe you can make that work. But when you're having a lot of problems, when they're perhaps seeing what's happening back in Russia, like we want the Russian people to know about the situation on the ground in Ukraine, but the Russian soldiers eventually are going to get some of that information too. And they're going to wonder, why exactly are we doing this? This isn't a war that I even knew we were going to be engaging in. I don't personally support it. My friends and family back home don't seem to support it. The world has rallied against us. This is doing a lot of damage to our country. Why are we doing this? They're going to hear about the economic ruin and all that. That's going to be incredibly demoralizing. Hold on. May Money says, found a docuseries called Everything is All White on Showtime. If anyone's interested, check it out. Okay, I'm going to have to look at that. Penny Rudder says, morning, Dragon Squad. Hope this finds you all well. Moderately well. Good morning to you, too. I'm going to be completely honest. Perhaps it comes through this week in my commentary. I've been experiencing a little bit of anxiety. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a seasonal thing. Maybe it's lingering lockdown wanting everything to go back to normal thing. But I have been experiencing a little bit of anxiety. It's actually caused last night a little bit of insomnia. So that's currently what I'm experiencing. How are all of you doing? Anyway, Yoda said, last week you and Anna talked about moving out of the U.S. for economic reasons. I've lived in Central America for 12 years. I can afford to pay student loans and live comfortably, but not in the U.S. Yeah, no, it's not something that I'm planning to do or anything like that. I have lived briefly abroad while filming and also for when I studied abroad back in college. But no, I mean we're trying to make it work. We're trying to make the country that we want and that we need here. We're trying to turn it into that. We're trying to take all the people that know that there's something wrong, all the people who say that they want America to be made great or whatever, but don't seem to understand the actual problems and aren't supporting politicians that have any solutions. We're trying to get them all lined up behind turning America into what it needs to be, what it deserves to be, what so many deserve for it to be. Edibles help. Yeah, I actually I had half an edible last night. That helped a little bit. Kind of fell asleep while watching the season 4 premiere of Marvelous Miss Maisel. Box breathing helps with that. I am actually not familiar with box breathing. I'm going to look into that and see if it helps. Abelina Sabrina in the YouTube comments. Morning, Dragons. Morning to you too. How's it going? By the way, everybody needs to go check out, Sabrina had a video up of, was it Joe Rogan, how he takes photos? It was very funny. Go take a look at Sabrina's YouTube channel. Okay, thank you for the suggestion. I will look up this box breathing, see if that'll help a little bit. So we'll see what happens with the morale. Also, this is very brief. I didn't want to dive into like a massive thing about this or anything like that, but what do you know? Another book coming out. This is This Will Not Pass, a book by New York Times correspondents Jonathan Martin and Alex Burns. So in May, the book will be coming out. Axios has a preview of it. And hey, what do you know? Hey, Zane, how's it going? And what do you know? Big revelation that in theory could have come out well over a year ago. And so here's what they have to say. Back on January 6th, Lindsey Graham, apparently very concerned about what was happening, apparently told, is it Pat Cipollini, the one of the lawyer, yeah, White House counsel Pat Cipollini, on the 6th said, we'll be asking you for the 25th Amendment if Trump doesn't condemn the rioters. So the idea is, if he doesn't get out there and address what's happening and try to stop it, we're going to be pushing for Donald Trump to be removed from his position. He says at one point, Lindsey Graham also said that Joe Biden was the right man for this time. I mean, how mad can you get at Joe Biden? Of course, bear in mind, Lindsey Graham has gone back and forth very much on what he seems to think about January 6th. Remember, he was hounded out of the D.C. airport on January, or immediately following January 6th, and the day or two after that. And he's since gone back and is totally supportive of Trump. Trump seems to hate his guts, routinely mocks him. But apparently, on the 6th, he considered it to be just as unacceptable as we were. That didn't stick around. Dragon Dancer says, good morning, Dragons. Me and the pups wish you all well and a great hump day to you too. I hope you all have a great hump day. Okay, one more story, and then we're going to get into our headline story. Hit the like button if you haven't already. So, yesterday, shouldn't we play this video? No, it'll be too long. So yesterday, the Senate voted in favor of making daylight savings time permanent all across the U.S., and it would start next year. Now, at this point, Martin and I studied in Cairo and traveled a little bit in the region. So it would start next year. I am very torn about this. One, about the fact that, look, if the Senate is going to be engaging in so little, I don't know, like, is this the thing? Now, not to say that it's not significant. It is a very big change. Okay. What do you all think about the possibility of daylight saving time being made permanent? Moondragon says, my addiction of Horizon Forbidden West continues. How goes Elden Ring? Elden Ring's treating pretty well. I've been playing a little bit. I don't have a ton of time to play, but I've got pretty far. I'm assuming I'm at least like maybe 2/3 of the way, more than half of the way. Man, all of you are very excited about daylight saving time. It's torture, well past time to make it permanent. I don't know. I'm for it. I love it. Finally. Is this like the most popular thing that the Senate could do right now, is making daylight savings time permanent? Look, there's a lot of debate about the effect of it. People saying that it increases certain sorts of bad things early on in the day if you make it permanent, but then others say that it's balanced out by changes to what happens later on in the day. I will say for me, right now, the last couple days, driving to work in the pitch black has been a very weird experience. It's a little bit harder to get going. Now, maybe that is balanced out by having more light later in the day. I don't know. Maybe it'll make the winter better in some ways. All I do know, though, is, man, if anything bad happens, we know, like, it's going to be so easy to point at the people that made this change and be like, that's why it happened. And so it is actually, it's a risky change to make. And again, it's not finished. Like, we don't know that the House is going to agree to it. We don't know that Biden would end up signing it. Anyway, with that said, why don't we get into our big story? So that is going to be Marjorie Greene, who has had multiple accusations of anti-Semitic behavior. Just in case you're not familiar with this, continually referring to those being asked to wear masks or to get vaccinated as deserving gold stars, like the victims of the Holocaust. Speaking at Nick Fuentes' America First PAC conference, like a month ago, maybe. Well, no. Don't get it twisted and think that she's anti-Semitic just because she says these things, advances these tropes, and talks at the conferences of clear anti-Semites. No, it's actually the other side. She tweeted, Democrats have been calling Republicans, President Trump, and his supporters Nazis since 2015. But the Dems have been funding actual Nazis since the Obama-Biden administration. Funding to neo-Nazis in Ukraine only stopped under President Trump. So there she's effectively, that's everything that Putin and his invading forces say about the invasion of Ukraine, which is an invasion, it's a military operation, is totally justified because we got to get in there and we got to get rid of the radicals, got to get rid of the Nazis. She goes on to say, not only were the Democrats funding neo-Nazis in Ukraine since 2014, the U.S. and Ukraine are the only countries who have, year after year, voted against the UN resolution to combat the spread of Nazism in Europe and the world. That I would need to look more into. But she's angry about the $13.6 billion in aid that was approved of last week. Says, how much U.S. taxpayer cash will end up in the hands of these neo-Nazis in Ukraine? Well, first of all, there are components of it that are designed to stop weapons from going to that group. We can debate whether that'll work, whether it goes far enough, but to act as if there is no consideration of it, that is fairly dishonest there. But says, and to top it all off, NATO has been supplying the neo-Nazis in Ukraine with powerful weapons and extensive training on how to use them. What the hell is going on with these hashtag NATO Nazis? So here's the thing. It is one thing to worry about weapons falling in the hands of radicals. That is a justified worry. It has very much happened in past conflicts. U.S. has funded weapons that end up going to the wrong people or just handed over to the wrong people. That is a perfectly valid concern to have. Trying to go trending, get your hashtag trending about NATO Nazis, that is not about a legitimate concern. What that is about is, again, like with basically every monologue from Tucker Carlson, it is designed to change the conversation about this. It is designed to create a way that the right, without ever coming out and explicitly saying that they're taking Putin's side. Like, they can't come out and say F Ukraine. I mean, some of them come kind of close, Madison Cawthorn and all that. They have to find a way to make this a thing they can attack Biden on. So early on it was, what was it? What was the criticism of Biden? It was that he wasn't doing enough, right? And in particular, that the economic sanctions weren't enough. That doing diplomacy, doing economic things, that was not enough. Something else needs to be done. Now, every single thing that he does, that is a thing to be attacked, to be criticized. And look, we get to have an ongoing debate and everything. What I am not seeing in this tweet thread is what she would like to see done. She didn't support the diplomacy. She didn't support the sanctions. Now she doesn't support the military assistance, the so-called lethal assistance to the defense of Ukraine. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to like any of that stuff if you don't want to. So then what do you want to do? Hearing nothing. Hearing nothing. Adam Hodges was busy making Pop-Tarts. Okay, I will allow it in that case. Anyway, yeah, Malik. Okay, so again, we're not going to get that. This is not about having a difference of opinion and we get to have a debate about it. This is about endless criticism. Ugh. Anyway, I want to talk about some other things. I want to go a little bit more general. Let's talk briefly about this. Joe Biden is several weeks into, I think, overall, a response to what's going on in Ukraine that people seem to be okay with. A lot of Republicans are, knee-jerk, going to have a problem with it, but largely okay. And they also had his State of the Union. Okay, so both of those things have been going on in the past couple of weeks. What effect has it had? Well, according to what I'm seeing off of YouGov, not much. I mean, you can see that around August of last year, he dropped into the negatives. And look, he's gone up a bit. I mean, maybe we give him 1.2 points of an improvement. That's not nothing when you're down by 9. That's nice. But what it doesn't look like is the same sort of trend in reverse. And I'm going to be completely honest. Like, he's got a situation here. Whenever there's a conflict like this, that's the sort of thing that can be very helpful to a president. It does not mean that he conspired to create it. I'll just get out in front of all the crazies or whatever. But he can potentially benefit from it. I think that this is about as beneficial, a multi-week news cycle as he's likely to get. Going to the elections, look, maybe the fact that there will be elections and more people will be paying attention to what's going on, and so many of the Republican candidates are clearly crazy people, maybe that'll benefit him too. But all of that is outside of his hands. What is he going to do to influence that? I don't necessarily expect much. Okay, so is there a climate crisis that is going to affect the world during our lifetime? I think that's indisputable at this point. People are asking for me to wipe the lens. Well, I think it's fairly clear. Anyway, do you think the world is experiencing a climate crisis? When you ask U.S. adult citizens, 61% say yes. That is a majority. It's a fairly significant majority, actually, when you think about it in the American context. We're tribal, we're partisan, we're split of virtually everything. 61%, I'll take it. When you ask climate scientists, 88% say yes. It is interesting, by the way, that there are still 12% that say no in response to, in this case, it's a YouGov poll. Do you think you will see catastrophic impacts of climate change in your life? Look at the difference here. Do you think we're experiencing a climate crisis? Strong majority. Do you think you'll see catastrophic impacts? Only 1/4 of regular people, 2/3 of climate scientists say yes. So what's the disconnect? Is it about a definition of the word catastrophic? How bad would it have to get for you to consider it catastrophic? 1/3 of climate scientists say no. That is certainly something. We're already seeing the wildfires. We're already seeing the storms. Yeah, A.M. Sadaro. Yes, we're already seeing it. Now, there might be people who live in areas that are more inoculated against it. Or bear in mind, it's entirely possible that there are people that are seeing the negative effects, but don't see the linkage to climate change. Remember, the media does a very bad job of linking even horrific bad weather events to climate change, to the extent that you can link it, which you can't in specific cases, but the trend is clearly there in terms of severity, in terms of how common they are. I think a lot of this really is about the media. And it's a difficult thing because I know when we cover climate change and the environment, not a lot of people get super fired up about that, get super invested in that, and they need to. We need to close this gap. Maybe we can do it together. In any event, that is all the time that I have. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here. Please hit the like button on your way out if you haven't already. The watch list is up. You can go to twitch.tv/TYT, youtube.com/watchlistTYT. Let's do a little bit of a pre-show raid on JR, and you can watch his show, have a lot of fun. And in 1 hour, I'll be going live. I'll see you with Dr. Rashad Ritchie.